The prison had one strict rule. All food sent by family members is cut into small pieces by the guards. Even soap is shaved down to ensure there are no hidden dangerous items. The purpose of all this is to prevent sharp objects from being concealed in food or other items, which could be used by inmates to escape. After all, this cell holds an expert in prison breaks. Mike first used a spoon to pry open the baseboard and take out a hidden small mirror. He then smashed it with the spoon, picked out a long, thin fragment, and wrapped the other pieces in paper. Just as he was about to flush the fragment down the toilet, a guard suddenly barged in for an inspection. Without hesitation, Mike swallowed the fragment. Every prisoner had to undergo a body search and stand by the door. After the search, the guard began a thorough inspection of the cell. Worried that the glass shards would be discovered, Mike took the opportunity to flush the toilet, sending the fragments down the drain. The guard, hearing the toilet, was furious, but Mike calmly claimed he had accidentally bumped it. The guard obviously didn't believe him and searched every nook and cranny, but ultimately found nothing suspicious. Once the guard left, Mike took out a thin string and a toothbrush. He securely tied the mirror fragment to the toothbrush and extended it out of the cell's peephole to observe the guard's movements in the block. By rotating the toothbrush, he could monitor the entire corridor without any blind spots. This makeshift periscope was crucial for their upcoming escape plan. One inmate was responsible for watching the door, while Mike skillfully dismantled the bed leg. They moved the cardboard boxes in the corner and used a spoon to pry open the floorboards underneath. Then they wrapped the bed leg in a handkerchief and began chiseling the cement below. To cover the loud noise, they had bribed the inmate next door to break his toilet so that the sound of repairing it would mask their chiseling. At this point, Mike's accomplice noticed two guards approaching, but Mike didn't slow down at all. As he said, it was too late to hide now. They had to go all in. The two guards walked by without stopping. After all, they had just been thoroughly searched, so this was their safest moment. After repeated efforts from the group and over an hour of work, they finally broke through the floor. Mike then lit a piece of paper and dropped it into the hole. With wind blowing in, this indicated the hole was connected to something, but to where, no one knew. They then dumped all the rubble and soil into the hole and decided to investigate it that night. After finishing, they restored the floor to its original state. But how would they deal with the guards' nightly inspections? In the evening, they made two dummies out of cardboard boxes and tied the arms and thighs to strings. By pulling the strings, the boxes would mimic body movements to fool the guards during their rounds. Inspection time soon arrived. The two quickly hid in a blind spot. Success or failure hung in the balance. The guard had to confirm the head count through the peephole. A few inmates waved their arms, but one had his head covered while his body writhed from time to time. The guard didn't notice anything unusual and left after closing the peephole. It seemed their cardboard dummies and string pulling technique were coordinated well enough to trick a guard who wasn't looking closely. Next, Mike took out a spoon and unscrewed the table corner, taking out a hacksaw blade from inside. They lifted the floorboards in the corner, revealing the hole they had dug earlier that day, and the two climbed in one after the other. Their accomplice in the cell lowered a rope with a stone tied to it, then covered the floor back up, with the other end of the rope tied to another accomplice's ankle. This way, when they returned, they could signal with the rope. Below was a cellar. To escape, they had to saw through the iron bars in front of them, so he took out the hacksaw and started sawing. To avoid being discovered by patrolling guards, they would stop every 20 strokes to listen intently for any movement around them. Getting caught by the guards would completely expose the escape plan and could even cost them their lives. However, the grate was made of metal and couldn't be sawed through in a short time. Mike had no choice but to take turns working with his accomplice. After half an hour of joint effort, the grate was finally cut. They then hurriedly climbed through the window into what seemed like a basement. Originally planning to find a passage to escape, they discovered that all the exits were tightly locked with iron doors no matter where they went. Left with no other option, Mike had to put the grate back in place. Just then, he noticed a pile of discarded windows and realized the bolts could be sawed off to use as keys. Mike had just started sawing a bolt when he heard the footsteps of guards. They quickly hid. It turned out two guards on duty had quietly snuck into the basement to chat, completely unaware that two prisoners were skillfully hiding around the corner. However, the guards quickly returned, fortunately not noticing anything unusual. Once the guards left, they wasted no time. Mike immediately picked up the saw and continued working. After 30 minutes of focused cutting, the bolt was finally severed. Mike forcefully bent it, then deftly inserted it into the keyhole of the iron door. With a click, the lock was easily opened. They then lit the kerosene lamp they had brought and entered the dark, damp basement without hesitation. Although the kerosene lamp's faint light wasn't dazzling, it was enough to illuminate their path forward. They soon discovered to their delight that all the door locks here were the same. With the help of their master key, they easily found the iron door leading to the sewer. However, they hadn't anticipated that this door would have a spring lock, rendering their master key useless. The calm Mike quickly thought of a solution. He carefully lifted the iron door and used the key to prop up the lower end of the hinge. He then took out the hacksaw from his pocket and laboriously sawed through the upper end of the hinge. Following the same method, he dealt with the lower hinge, removed the master key, and pulled out the severed nails. Just like that, Mike easily removed the iron door. Seeing freedom right before their eyes, they didn't rush to leave. Instead, they took a match from the matchbox they had brought, broke it in two, and stuffed it into the gaps of the hinges. Then, using the master key, they forcefully hammered the match to perfectly merge it with the hinge. After finishing all this, Mike crawled inside and rehung the door. He had successfully removed the iron door while also cleverly disguising the scene, ensuring that even if the guards came to inspect, it would be difficult for them to notice anything abnormal. The two entered the sewer with excitement, but unfortunately, the passage was sealed with thick cement. The cement was very sturdy and ordinary tools were useless for chiseling it. However, the cement used on the nearby wall was low quality and could be scraped off with a bit of effort. Mike said it would only take a few days to dig open the passage and they could officially start tomorrow. At this point, dawn had arrived and the guards were about to conduct room inspections, but they hadn't returned yet. Their accomplice anxiously shouted into the hole. Fortunately, Mike ultimately made it back. After properly disguising the scene, he and his accomplice quickly laid back in bed, pretending to not be up yet. The guard didn't notice anything unusual. After this incident, Mike realized an important issue. They didn't have watches and couldn't keep track of time. If they had returned 10 seconds later just now, the plan might have failed. To avoid being discovered by the guards, they had to find a way to get a timer to conveniently keep track of time. Therefore, one of the accomplices pretended to see the doctor and took the opportunity to steal 2 glass bottles. Then when the guard wasn't paying attention, he grabbed some sand and put it in his pocket. Although he knew they would be searched every time they entered or left the cell, Charlie still decided to do it. Since sand couldn't be used to dig a hole and escape like an iron bar or spoon, the guard wasn't suspicious and let him return without issue. With the materials in hand, they quickly made a simple hourglass. After testing, Mike discovered that each time the hourglass emptied, it was exactly half an hour. With the help of the hourglass, everyone could roughly keep track of time. Soon after, Mike and his accomplice brought tools to the sewer. They first built a simple platform with wooden planks, then put down the hourglass. They drew a circle on the wall and began chiseling. Sure enough, the cement quality here was poor. The two quickly chiseled off a large chunk of the wall, exposing the bricks inside, which became their biggest obstacle. Mike took advantage of the break to modify the bolt into a key. Then he checked the time and saw it was already 2 a.m. Time to change shifts. He pulled the rope to wake up his accomplice. It happened to be time for the guards' rounds, and they once again fooled them with the dummies. Then Mike took the teammate changing shifts to the designated location. After telling them all the precautions, he turned to go rest. The other 2 accomplices also began their work. 3 days later, the escape tunnel was almost dug through. But just as the accomplice was busy digging, the entrance suddenly collapsed and he was instantly buried in the debris. Seeing this, Mike immediately rushed over to rescue him. However, there were heavy bricks everywhere. With his strength alone, there was no way to clear these obstacles in a short time, and his accomplice could suffocate to death. Mike was anxious and exerted all his strength to start moving the rubble. Finally, after a few minutes, he saw his accomplice's hand reach out from the debris and successfully saved a life. Just as they were about to change shifts, a guard suddenly barged in to inspect the room. Charlie hurriedly used clothes to temporarily cover the hole. It turned out the guard discovered a hacksaw missing from the utility room and suspected a prisoner had stolen it. Next, the guards conducted a thorough search. When they arrived in front of the cardboard pile, everyone's hearts were in their throats, afraid the guards would discover the hole's location. At this critical juncture, a colleague next door called out to the guard, seeming to have discovered something. The guard immediately took his subordinates and left. Only then did they finally relax. They realized they had to speed up and dig through the tunnel before the guards discovered it. Otherwise, they would be in a predicament. So, they worked even harder, not wasting a single second. With the joint efforts of the two, the wall was finally broken through and the path to freedom was right before their eyes. They sped up their actions. Shortly after, the entrance opened. The first accomplice crawled out, followed closely by Sean. Following the sewer, they quickly found a ladder and eagerly climbed up. When they emerged, they were already outside the prison and had truly successfully escaped. Seeing the taxi in front of them, they couldn't wait to get in and flee this place of right and wrong. However, they understood they couldn't do this because there were still accomplices who hadn't escaped. They decided to act together. So they quickly told Mike the good news. After discussion, everyone decided to carry out the escape plan that night. But at this critical moment, a guard suddenly barged in and told Sean that the warden wanted to see him. This news wasn't pleasant, and everyone worried something unexpected would happen. The warden wanted to see Sean because there was a turn in his case. His wife had unexpectedly withdrawn the lawsuit, which meant Sean's crime could be reduced or he could even be released early. However, when Sean excitedly told his accomplices this good news, they didn't show the expected happiness and instead had solemn expressions. Obviously, the accomplices didn't believe a case would be discussed for so long. Sean must have talked about other things with the warden, but Sean's sincere demeanor made it impossible for them to doubt him. After the guard finished inspecting the room and left, everyone began preparing for tonight's escape. After saying goodbye to each other, the accomplices started to move the cardboard. But at this moment, an unexpected change suddenly occurred. As Paul was observing outside, a group of guards suddenly appeared at the door, staring at them in unison. Instantly, everyone understood. Sean had betrayed them. The accomplices rushed forward wanting to give him a beating, but were forcibly pulled away by the guards. No matter how they struggled, it was all in vain. In the end, their escape plan had completely failed. Although Sean's wife withdrew the lawsuit, he had injured someone after all and had to serve at least 5 years. If he wanted to be released early, he could only rely on the warden. This was why Sean chose to sell out his accomplices in exchange for trust. Later, Sean was transferred to a new cell. Actually, before he arrived, Mike and 3 others had always been together and had long planned their escape. However, Sean's sudden addition disrupted their plan, forcing them to temporarily halt their operation. But delaying wasn't a long-term solution. The longer they delayed, the greater the danger. In the end, the 4 decided to tell Sean the plan. After all, he was in the same cell as them and would find out sooner or later. But no one expected that what ultimately awaited them was Sean's ruthless betrayal. The human heart is truly difficult to fathom and guard against.